So for those of you who don't know myself and Model Office, we are classed as a RegTech, and we're AI driven. We're now a multi-award winning business, I hasten to add, having just won the Professional Advisor Awards 2024 a couple of weeks ago for Best Technology Provider. So we're very proud of that, which was our third time of trying, so never give up. But the key with us, and just to really take a look at the in-depth of what we've built over the last 5 years with Model Office, is what we class as an end-to-end solution in three things. All we're interested in is governance, risk, and compliance. So we're a plug-and-play technology. We're agnostic on third-party technologies. We can integrate with third parties very easily. As you'll see, hopefully, because we're going to do a demo of our new technology that we're launching today in a little while. And the piece that I'm really going to focus on today is this middle piece on generative AI, where what we've been doing over the last certainly 8 to 9 months, we've been trialing kind of like 3 LLMs, large language models, OpenAI, which I'm sure you've all heard of, Claude, as well as the new kid on the block called Databricks. And Databricks is interesting because it's 100% open source. And what that means is it's far cheaper to actually code on, and it's freely available. So that's one to watch out for. But the stuff I'm going to show you today is all built on generative AI, on the OpenAI ChatGPT API platform. So really what we're seeing is a whole shift, if you like, in and amongst the AI community, where originally when AI was, or generative AI came to the fore, it was all about what it can do for pretty much everything and anything. And what we're now seeing really is a real shift to what we classed as really highly focused, streamlined, specialist services that can do certain things really, really well. And what we're really involved in is the aspect of digitizing and disrupting the compliance support market to make sure that it's fit for purpose in the 21st century and offering you all the data that you need. Because at the end of the day, as Andy Sutherland mentioned in his talk, we've got a data-led regulator. That's what the FCA is saying. They're a self-professed data-led regulator. And that's a groundbreaking issue. Because our mantra now at Model Office is really, if you haven't got the data, it didn't happen. If you got the data, it better have happened. That's where we are. And with these subject data requests from the FCA, that is really mining into, as Andy talked about the fact that you've really got to offer that data, ideally at the click of a button, in super quick time, in a meaningful manner. And that's what the FCA are asking for, particularly on the back of the consumer duty. So what we also do at Model Office, we're also mindful of the fact is that we're not here to digitize or replace compliance consultants or compliance officers. We're here to make them more effective and more efficient at what they do. We're lucky enough that we work with some from very larger organizations, a couple of which are in this room today, and support them on their audit journey for their member firms. And the idea there is that we're actually making that audit process far more automated, far more effective and efficient, okay, but we're also making the auditors themselves far more effective and efficient. So not only are they getting better quality data and MI, but they're saving a lot of time and costs along the way. The other thing to mention as well, it touches on the PII point. The Bear Rock guys have done some great work, and congratulations on your recent launch. Is it today? Yes. There you go. Yesterday, sorry. So on the Bear Rock, on the PII side, professional indemnity side, but certainly if you're looking at that, boxed into the GRC space, the governance, risk and compliance space, it's all about ensuring that you've got your lines of defense in order. And I would argue in this industry, in our industry, retail and financial advice and investment advice and wealth management industry, they're really poor on the third line of defense because they don't quite know where all the data is. Again, going to Andy's point. And that you can't do anymore. I would argue that will probably put you out of business in 2 years' time with the data-led regulator. Quick question. We've got lots of change going on, but this just illustrates the pace of change that we're going through with what is now classed as the fourth industrial revolution, which is now spearheaded by generative AI. This was Easter morning, 1900, Fifth Avenue, New York City. Spot the automobile. All horse and cart. There's one automobile back then. Question to you. How many years have human beings been reliant on horse and cart? Anyone give an answer? Keep going. 5,000 years. It's still been traced back to Kazakhstan. It's the first horse and cart, allegedly. Now, anyone want to hasten to take a look at how quickly it took for the cars to take over the horse and carts during the 19th century, the 20th century?
5 years.
5 years. It was actually 13 years. Okay, spot the horse and cart. So that really illustrates the pace of change that's already come with the motor car industry, and now with the generative AI stuff, we're going to see that in super quick time. And I'm really interested in what the Implement AI guys are going to be talking about in regard to where that's going to go and the time frame it's going to take for it to get there. The other thing to mention is technology and trust. Has anyone seen the Endelman Barometer? It's produced every year by Endelman, big consultancy in the States. They've been doing it for 50 odd years. And it looks at really technology for the last decade or so has been the #1 trusted sector across the world. And poor old financial services has kind of been, well, it's actually been surpassed now by social media. But it is the worst performing. The worst performing. But the argument there is that, and as Andy alluded to, none of us are getting any younger. The next gen coming through, they're all about technology, and we're going to have to move to their world. About technology, about, on their apps, on their smartphones, on their, online banking, and so forth. That's where it's all going, already gone. And we've got to make sure with our services that we've got a pathway to ensure that we can get there. And that is exactly what, the talks this morning were about, in the sense of making sure that you're doing the research and due diligence in the right place to make sure that you've got the right track so that you can digitize your services. Now, does anyone recognize this chap? Hate to say it, I'm a Liverpool supporter. But Kevin De Bruyne, when he negotiated his recent contract with Man City, he didn't deploy an agent. What did he do? He deployed a data analytics business. And because he could prove through data that he was the most creative midfielder, not only with Man City, not only in the Premiership, in the world, during that time he'd been there. And that increased his pay package from £300,000 a week to over £500,000 a week. Good money if you can get it. Okay? The other thing, I've been privileged to hear Sir Clive Woodward speak on a number of occasions in Teleflow conference last year as well. And he swears by technology. When he won the 2003 World Cup, it was all about effectively ensuring they had the right technology. It was pioneering in its day to ensure they had the right people in the right place with the right skills and the right team ethic to deliver. A lot of that was measured. The only way you can measure was through the technology, and if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. Now, coming to the FCA, we talked a bit about the FCA this morning, and the FCA, they produce a lot of papers, as you know. I love to read them. It's unfortunately I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to these type of things, but we talk about these papers as being the big six suitability papers. So you've got final guidance papers, which was 11.5, which is all about risk assessment of clients' portfolios and needs. You had final guidance 12.6, which is all about replacement business and centralized investment propositions, all the way through to thematic review 16.1, which was all about effectively research and due diligence and so forth. You had the defined benefit pension transfers paper that came out, as well as the vulnerable clients. And most recently, Andy mentioned this in his talk, you've got the thematic review on income advice charges. And what they're basically showing, and this is over, by the way, about 15 years, this time frame with these papers, but this shows the same themes. The industry is still very poor or inconsistent regarding the information that they're gathering, the risk assessment of their clients, poor governance and controls, low evidence for ability to monitor and assess ongoing client needs. That can't continue. Now, yes, that's only a small proportion of the firms that are out there. The rest of them are doing good stuff. But even so, it's pulling down, the good work that's being done, because obviously the FCA are going to set their fines, and they're going to set their regulatory permissions and so forth around the risks that the market is showcasing to them. Now, this was produced by Linklaters last year, and this looked at the where the direction of travel is, if you like, of the FCA enforcement across firms and individuals. And the trend analysis across this is basically showing that the FCA are now really interested in medium to smaller firms, not just the bigger firms. Yes, we've seen it in the news. There's certain firms out there that had to set aside nearly £500,000 in potential redress to cover complaints on the back of the consumer duty. Other firms have basically put aside a lot of money and also offloaded a lot of their clients on their platforms because they're seeing that their services aren't fit for purpose against the consumer duty. But this is only going to go one way. It's going to go up, with the FCA really baring their teeth. The city watchdog is really baring their teeth around all this. So our argument at Model Office is you need to ensure that you've got the tools in your business to showcase not only to your team but the regulator that you're doing the good work that you're doing, because without it you'll be in their crosshairs. So it's all data driven. Andy alluded to this when you talked about visits from the FCA, and this is a live example of a firm that have been using Model Office for some time, and they were asked across their business and advice register, I hasten to add, information to deliver all this information, the governance and risk and compliance strategies, and their consumer duty implementation and validation plans. Now, all I can say is if they weren't using Model Office, how would they actually gather all that information in a meaningful time frame? And the FCA gave them 2 weeks to get it done. That's where we are now. So really, where the FCA are saying, and this is their words, not my words, assertive, intrusive, proactive, data-driven. That's where firms need to be thinking about what they need to do regarding ensuring that they've got the right data processes and the tools in place. Our surveys basically show, we do an annual survey every year, that firms are really under pressure now when it comes to their margins. So obviously what we're talking about there is the amount of time they're spending on compliance activities each week. That's between, on average, between 7 to 11 hours a week. And the cost it's on the bottom line on their income. And the average is 18% of revenues, annual revenues spent on compliance. Now, we know at Model Office, we have been, as I say, we've got track data over the last three years now to showcase that we can reduce that, certainly on the compliance time, by 20%. Now we're getting involved and we've been building generative AI products. We think that we can increase it. Our target is to get it down to 50%. And I'll showcase that in a little while when I go through the demo. And also what you've got, is the fact that, research done by, in this case, Opinion survey in 2023, when the consumer duty came into force, was really about 70% of IFAs say the FCA are unclear about the consumer duty, and that it's resulted in 72% of them regarding increased admin. 61% they say they have less time to advise their clients, which is crazy if you think about it. You've also got recent research that's come out in the marketplace, that's been in the media, around the mental health aspects of all the increased regulations. So our argument is, well, if you've got technology that can help you with that, reduce the time, give you the confidence that you've got the data, hopefully that will put you and your team and your business in a far better place. A bit about the human element about all this. The key we've got to realise is that human beings are fallible. So when we are applying technology or building technology, there can be significant issues going on for us. And a couple of books for you. Noise, I don't know if anyone's read Noise or Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman and co. Kind of like the godfather of behavioural economics, which the FCA was founded on in 2013 on behavioural economics. But what they came up with in this book is really that humans are unreliable decision makers. They make judgments that are affected by irrelevant factors such as mood, their hunger, the weather. They use rules of thumb, heuristics. Now, the interesting thing there is that they cited examples of judges making different judgments based on the time of day, if they'd eaten or not. Medication with doctors delivered, in different quantities or in different aspects because of the weather. It's raining, they want to get home, they want to just get something out. It's quite interesting how, the fact that if we're looking at human beings, that we are fallible, then we've got to be careful about how we're making decisions, particularly about something that's as sensitive as compliance and governance and risk in our businesses. So they also argue that noise, they can measure noise and they do noise audits in businesses, what they've said is effectively it's an invisible tax on the company bottom line. And as I've talked about earlier on, that could be a time tax or a cost tax. Algorithms are less noisy, are more accurate. In fact, there's been a whole piece of research around that went back to the 1950s, which focused on the fact that algorithms beat people 50% of the time and match people 50% of the time, so therefore algorithms win. And that's going to get better, as I'm sure we'll hear, regarding generative AI and how that will work to support us making better decisions as the technology gets better. The other thing is, while I'm reading this book at the moment, Creativity Inc., about Ed Catmull, how he started Pixar. And the interesting thing there, going back to Joe's, is Joe still here? Joe's talk at the start of today, where he was pretty much alluding to these mental models that people use to make decisions. And he basically said that the biggest problem they had when they were doing Toy Story was they had the directors over here, they had the producers over here, they had the writers down there, and then they had the creativity lot who were creating all the wonderful films, digital films, down in the basement. And what they found was there was so much disconnect, everything was taking longer, people were creating stuff that would never be used in a film. So what they did was they basically decided to build technology that would get everybody communicating and get everybody on the right page. And that speeded up the process and got them to make, what was then a groundbreaking film. Quick mention, I sit on the CISI, the Compliance Federation Board, and the interesting thing as well, we also need to take care of is the ethics around deploying AI and technology in our businesses. They run a great certificate in ethical artificial intelligence, which I've taken, and it is in depth, but it's really good and meaningful, and it will give you far more information around all these key issues that, that are important when we're applying technologies to our business. So, really kind of like summing up where I'm at, what we've got to do is really take a look at how does everything work within our businesses. I wrote a book and I published it in September last year called Culture Coding, available at a good bookstore near you. And, but that is basically all about taking a look at where you are now and taking a look at where you want to be, okay, and then looking at what are the components that you need in your business to ensure that your business is going to work in a holistic fashion, taking a look at holistically rather than silo, and to make sure everything fits together, streamlines, and works together, and offers great value for the business and obviously stakeholders, including your customers. So down here, we talked a lot today about the tech stack. You've got to really do a lot of work around the tech stack, and the idea is if you can't build it yourselves or you don't want to build it yourselves, looking out for end-to-end solutions, which, as I've mentioned, are highly focused, and they are basically streamlined to ensure that they're going to do a good job as long as they can plug and play. That's the key factor to this. We did a bit of research, again, which went on last year with a number of firms in the marketplace, which looked at where they are across their business, on their turnover, their variable and fixed costs. And this was averaged out across small to medium-sized firms. And then we looked at, well, if they're applying better technology in their business and AI in their business, what's going to happen to those costs? And effectively, what we worked through was that they would increase the value of that business by 3 times by ensuring that they've got the right tech in place and the right people in place to monitor that tech and build out their businesses going forward. And that's a compelling, if anything today, that's a really compelling argument to ensure that you're looking at getting the right tech in your business. So what we do effectively is what we're about is, as I said, the governance, risk and compliance element. And we're really interested in taking a look at, in particular, audit and breaking it down into its constituent parts and focused on looking at audit reviews, data gathering, periodic client file review data, compliance document audit, business supervision and T&C audit, audit data and reporting, and audit and regulatory report review analysis. Are you bored yet? But what we want to do is bring this to life for our clients. because at the end of the day, it's taking a significant amount of time for all this to build through when they want to be getting on with stuff like seeing their clients. As Andy said, we've both been IFAs. The best part of my job was when I was in front of my clients. So what we're all about really at Model Office is cutting that dead time right down. We want to make sure we minimize the dead time, and we want to increase and give time back to the business and finances back to the business so they can build out in a more meaningful manner to help their clients reach their end goals. So as I said, our target really is to get from that 20 to 22% we are at the moment to 50%. And we're confident that we can do that now we've built out the generative AI information. Right, this is where the drum roll happens, because if the tech gods allow me, I'm going to do a live demo. But in a good Blue Peter fashion, I've got one I prepared earlier. I know. So, where are we? Did I do this right? No, I didn't.
Callum's on hand.
Is he? Callum, what have I done wrong? Do I click on here? There you go. And then go into Edge, yeah? Perfect. I'm going to stand over here while I go through this. So this is Model Office's home dashboard, where what we're doing is effectively breaking the rules and regulations down into 6 constituent parts. So what we've effectively done is we've taken the FCA handbook, digitized it, and put it through onto our platform. And what then firms can do is start to answer questions about where they believe they are against all the rules and regulations, and our algorithms kick in and say, this is where you think you are, but this is where you actually are. And then we automate the gap analysis and automate the audit reporting. So you can see here, everyone looks, obviously wants to focus on the consumer duty. So if I go into the consumer duty, what we're doing is deploying gamification to hopefully bring a lot of this more to life for businesses so that they can actually get far more engaged with the whole process. So this particular demo firm has scored 45% against all the FCA relevant rules and regs. We give them we can track them against what the best firms are doing on the platform. So we give them a peer score, which is important because everyone likes to keep up with their next door neighbours. And then we're giving them a 1-year target score to improve. Now, what we're then doing is breaking the consumer duty elements into constituent parts. So you can see here, across these particular areas, we call them business functions, but think of them as modules, if you like. Then they see their scoring there, and of course, what they want to do is improve their scores. And so they get more engaged with what we're doing. But what our algorithms are always doing is assessing where they think they are to where they actually are, which is very hard to do because that's very subjective. And we're also in a very subjective environment because we're in a principles-based rules environment with the FCA, where we have to take the rules, make our own mind up at how they apply to our business, then the FCA play a 3-card trick, say, here's our rules, go and play, we might come and see you. So what we're doing here is we're bringing that to life and giving far more data around, pretty much at this stage, a qualitative process. What we then want to do effectively is make that more quantitative. So let me take a look at our integration with our friends who I know are here today in Teleflow. So there's a couple of things here, which again I think was mentioned in Andy's talk and Joe's talk, which is about data and how we can access data. So what we're doing immediately, what our algorithms are doing is basically going into a firm's data and taking a look at what we class as a data quality health check. So it's looking at how many duplicated clients they may have instantly, and then taking a look at what missing data they may have, and they can view that like so, and then it will give the relevant constituent parts to that so that they can go and clean it up and then prove that they've got good data, because Joe's talk was all about rubbish in, rubbish out. Consumer duty. So this is all part of the monitor that we're launching today. So on the consumer duty, what we're doing again on here, we're going into individual client data, and what the algorithm will do, if it works, is it will go in, it will assess the data, and it has done, and it will then RAG rate that data on the quality of the data and segment it across the 4 consumer duty outcomes. So the problem that the industry's got is the FCA are data-led, and they're saying, these firms are saying effectively, well, okay, but how do I identify the data? How do I monitor it, improve it, and report on it that's going to meet your standards? The FCA won't tell them. So that's what we're attempting to do here using generative AI across those 4 outcomes. So you can see there's null scores. They're going to get penalized, for example, if For case of service cases, if they've got a vulnerability issue, which the client's got, but there's no vulnerability owners, so there's vulnerability here. And you can also track in things like foreseeable harms that the client has potentially got through this. And what we're finding is the way firms are using this, wasn't particularly designed this way, but firms are actually using it before advisors go out and do a client meeting to look at the quality of the data. And then obviously make sure that those areas that need improving are improved before that client is seen. The other area that we've got is the client file review. Now, historically, this has always been people and paper driven. So, again, we'll go into that client file through to IntelliFlow, and it will look at the client binder, and it will sense check what available files are in that client binder. And then hopefully, he says, as it's looking like it's stuck, it will produce a report, which it has done here. There you go. It's just a time lag. I know. Bloody hell. It will produce a time. It will produce a time lag. It will produce a report using generative AI, because what we're basically doing is the industry is notorious for terminology. Everybody calls their fact finds different things. So what we've done is we've programmed the ChatGPT element to say, look for these 20 to 30 to 50 different ways you can call a fact find. And it will go and look at it, and it will bring it through, and then it will RAG rate it to make sure that it's all in there and give an overall score to that client file. Now that, historically, is all people and paper driven. And we think this is one of the first ways that we're showcasing to the industry today that we can digitize it using generative AI. And hopefully this will save a lot of money and cost. But the pièce de résistance is this piece, which I'm hoping is going to work for you, where we go into Monitor. So Monitor, at this moment in time, you can drag and drop documents in, but what it will do is automatically pull out relevant documents into this particular area from that client file review. So again, going back to the current situation, this is all, again, people, paper driven, and it takes a long time for firms and their auditors to go through individual client files. And they can only pick 4 or 5 of them. I was always, frustrated when we had KPMG in doing it. No one here from KPMG, is there? So, doing it. And it would it would take them ages, and they pretty much tell us a report that we already knew that was going to come anyway. But we can only cover a snapshot at the moment in time. What this will do is run in the background, and it will cover all the available clients that you want to focus on and more. So what we've got here is, if I drag and drop a file in, and it would help if I was on the right section. So 2 secs. Here we go. So if I go to this particular... Okay, so what it's now doing is it's taking a look at that document, and the ChatGPT element is basically saying, right, what's in that document? How does that document meet the rules that we've placed into and coded into ChatGPT? And then it should then pull out a report which will then effectively look at, bingo, thank God for that. And it will basically pull out a report which is then taking a look at the constituent parts. So it's gone and found the constituent parts of that report in quick time, in real time. It's looked at the relevant rules from the rule book that apply to that particular area, and it's given URL links so you can click on that and get up to speed on the rules and regulations. And bingo, it's now started to deliver its own relevant guidance based on our rules about what this area is all about and how it's met all the particular requirements from the FCA. It's a shame Alan Smith isn't here because this is one of his documents. I told him he should have stayed. And it's all green. There you go. So the key area with this is that what we're doing is we are in real time delivering some hopefully cutting edge technology. And again, we've got guidance that is produced by us. You can add notes in here if you wanted to, and so forth. You've got good practice that it will allow in here, that again, with links into the rules and regulations that you can click on, and that will go straight into the rule or the regulation like so. So again, what it's doing is it's really in quick time. Again, it's thinking about it down there, but it's delivering a meaningful report in real time so that you're going to get more done, quicker, faster, and you can get on with your jobs, see more clients, and hopefully become far more profitable. Thank you for that.